Imagine being told that the people actively plotting to murder you, they genuinely believe they are performing a holy service to God.
Yeah, it's a terrifying thought.
It really is. And that is exactly the terrifying reality check Jesus drops on his closest friends the night before he is executed. Welcome to the deep dive. May God profoundly bless your day and, the entire week you have ahead of you, wherever you are and whatever you're stepping into right now.
Absolutely. We are so glad you are here with us.
We really are. So today our mission is to unpack one of the most intense, emotionally charged, and frankly paradoxical texts in ancient literature. We're looking at chapter 16 of the Gospel of John.
Right. It's a very heavy text.
It is. And to help us navigate this, we are drawing on some brilliant historical and linguistic insights from the Holman and NWA study Bibles.
Yeah, and it really is a text that demands your full attention. I mean, to grasp what is happening here, you have to mentally put yourself in that room.
The upper room, right?
Exactly, the upper room. It is the night before the crucifixion. Jesus has just washed their feet. Judas is left into the night to betray him. And the tension must have been absolutely suffocating.
I can't even imagine.
Right. And Jesus is giving his farewell discourse to his disciples. He is handing down his final instructions, his warnings, and his promises, all while knowing exactly the physical and spiritual agony he is, just hours away from facing.
And usually a farewell speech from a leader is all about comforting the troops, right? It's all, stay the course, everything is going to be fine, I believe in you.
Yeah, the classic motivational speech.
Right. But Jesus completely shatters that expectation. He looks at these followers, people who have abandoned their livelihoods, their reputations, everything for him, and he starts with an outright terrifying reality check. He warns them that they are going to be expelled from the synagogues.
Right. And we really need to pause there because to a modern listener, expelled from the synagogue might just sound like being asked to find a new church on Sunday.
Yeah, like an inconvenience.
Exactly. But it was so much more devastating than that.
Like social and economic ruin.
Entirely. The historical context provided by the Holman scholars makes it really clear that the synagogue was the absolute center of Jewish social, religious, and economic life in the first century.
Wow, so you lose everything.
You do. Being expelled meant you were entirely cut off from your community, your family, your ability to do business. I mean, it was a social death sentence. And Jesus says that is just the beginning.
Oh, man. Which brings us to that chilling line. Jesus says, a time is coming when those who kill them will think they're offering a service to God. Okay, let's unpack this. Because this goes way beyond just being unpopular or misunderstood by the establishment.
Like way beyond.
It's like the ultimate, most tragic case of cognitive dissonance imaginable. You have human beings who are so spiritually blinded, so utterly twisted in their understanding of the divine, that they look at cold-blooded murder and mistake it for the highest form of worship.
Yeah. And the historical data backing this up is incredibly sobering. Jesus is pointing directly at the intense religious and political persecution that was about to explode in the first century, particularly from Jewish authorities and later the Roman Empire.
Right.
The scholarly insights highlight a terrifying historical reality here. There were rabbis and zealots of that era who genuinely taught that killing a heretic wasn't just permissible, it was a literal act of divine worship.
Wait, literally?
Literally. It was viewed as purifying the faith, almost much like offering a sacrifice on an altar.
That is just wild. It really shows how sincerity isn't enough, does it? You can be entirely sincere, highly educated in your tradition, profoundly zealous, and, well, still be completely tragically wrong.
You absolutely can. And Jesus diagnoses exactly the root cause of this lethal zeal. He tells the disciples that these persecutors will do these things because they have not known the Father, nor have they known him. It's a profound commentary on religious violence.
Oh.
I mean, whenever religious zeal is severed from the actual character and heart of God, which Jesus perfectly modeled, it instantly becomes weaponized.
Okay, so if I'm Peter or John sitting in that room, my heart is just pounding out of my chest. I've just been told I'm going to be excommunicated, hunted down, and murdered by people who think God is cheering them on.
Right, panic mode.
Total panic. I would be looking for the nearest exit, or at least expecting Jesus to say, so here's the tactical defense plan. But instead, Jesus says something that feels entirely counterintuitive. He looks at these terrified men and says, actually, it is to your advantage that I go away.
Which sounds completely absurd on its face.
Totally absurd. How could the departure of their leader, their protector, their rabbi, possibly be a good thing right at the exact moment? He just told them they are going to be hunted. I'm leaving you to the wolves, you're welcome. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Until, that is, we look at the mechanism of what happens next. Jesus explains that if he does not leave, the consolator, the advocate, will not come to them.
The consolador.
Right. And this word, advocate, some translations say counselor or helper, and the original Greek is parakletos, is crucial. A paraclete in the ancient world was a legal advocate.
Like a lawyer.
Yes, someone called to your side to defend you in a court of law, to advise you, to strengthen you. Jesus is talking about the Holy Spirit.
But why does Jesus have to leave for the Spirit to arrive? I mean, couldn't they just have both?
It comes down to the mechanics of the incarnation. You know, while Jesus was on earth in his physical body, he was voluntarily limited by space and time. He could only be in one room talking to one specific group of people at a time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, if you were a disciple in Galilee and he was in Jerusalem, you were just out of luck. But the transition from Jesus' physical presence to the Holy Spirit's indwelling presence is a massive upgrade. The Spirit ensures the continuation of his ministry everywhere, at all times, living inside the believers and guiding them into all truth globally.
Okay, so it's the shift from God with us locally to God in us globally. I can see how, from a logistical, big picture standpoint, that is a massive advantage. But for the disciples in that room, I mean, it still feels like an emotional gut punch. And this advocate, this paraclete, has a very specific job description. It's not just about offering warm, fuzzy feelings of comfort while they hide from persecutors.
Oh, far from it. The text outlines a highly active, almost prosecutorial role for the Spirit in the world. Jesus says the advocate will convict the world concerning three specific things: sin, righteousness, and judgment.
Right.
And the linguistic breakdown of these terms in the study notes is fascinating because they are deeply interconnected.
Well, walk me through them. Because convicting the world of sin sounds pretty standard, but the text specifies it's about the sin of unbelief.
Right. It's not about convicting the world of breaking random moral rules. It specifically targets the core sin of rejecting Jesus. Unbelief is the root from which all other rebellion grows.
Yeah.
But the second one, righteousness, is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Jesus says the Spirit will convict the world of righteousness because I go to the Father.
See, this is exactly where you lose me. And I think it would lose the disciples, too. How does Jesus leaving to go to the Father prove anything about righteousness?
It's tricky.
Because, I mean, wouldn't staying on earth, calling down fire from heaven and overthrowing the Roman Empire be a much clearer proof that he is righteous and they are wrong?
It's a brilliant question, and it really has to do with how the divine court operates versus the worldly court. Think about what is about to happen in just a few hours.
The trials.
Exactly. The highest courts of the world, both the Jewish religious Supreme Court and the Roman political authority, are going to condemn Jesus as a blasphemer and a criminal. They are going to officially declare this man is unrighteous. If Jesus just dies and stays dead, the world's verdict stands.
Oh, wow. I see where you're going.
Right.
Oh.
But by resurrecting and ascending to the Father, a higher court is overturning the lower court's ruling. The Father welcoming the Son back into glory is the ultimate cosmic vindication that Jesus' character and mission were entirely righteous.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and the Spirit's job is to take that overturned verdict and make it known to the hearts of humanity, proving the world got it completely backwards.
That makes so much sense. The resurrection and ascension are essentially the Supreme Court of the universe saying the lower courts were corrupt, the verdict is reversed.
Precisely.
But that brings us to the third conviction, judgment.
Yeah.
And I have to push back hard here because the text says the Spirit convicts of judgment because the prince of this world is already judged.
Yes, he does say that.
So if the prince of this world, Satan, the adversary, is already judged, if the enemy is fully defeated, why did Jesus just spend the first part of this conversation warning the disciples that they are about to be excommunicated, hunted, and killed? Why is the world still so incredibly dangerous if the enemy's boss is already judged?
That tension you are feeling is one of the most central paradoxes of the New Testament. And the key to resolving it lies in the legal language Jesus is using.
Okay, lay it on me.
When he says the prince of this world is judged, the Greek verb tense indicates a definitive, completed, irrecoverable legal verdict. The gavel has fallen, the ruling has been made, the ultimate authority of the enemy is completely broken at the cross.
Right.
However, the final execution of that sentence, the literal clearing out of the enemy's influence, is still playing out in real time.
I'm trying to picture this. It feels like A geopolitical situation where a massive empire has officially fallen, the capital has been taken, the dictator is deposed, the treaty is signed. Legally, the war is entirely over.
Yes, perfect analogy.
But you are a soldier stationed in some remote mountain pass where the news hasn't fully reached, or, there are rogue factions that just refuse to surrender. The battles you are fighting in that pass are incredibly dangerous. They are lethal, but they can't change the outcome of the war.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. The decisive war-ending battle is won. That is why the Spirit can confidently declare the judgment as a finished fact. But the immediate environment is still hostile because the mop-up operation isn't finished.
Wow. And if I'm a disciple, my brain is officially melting. I'm trying to process losing my best friend, facing a hostile religious mob, understanding globalized spirit indwelling, and navigating cosmic Supreme Court rulings. It's too much.
It is entirely too much. And Jesus, being a master teacher, recognizes this immediately. He sees that these massive cosmic legal concepts are completely overwhelming them. You can almost hear the whispered confusion in the room.
Yeah, the text even says they were whispering.
Exactly. So he shifts gears. He moves entirely away from the cosmic courtroom and uses a deeply human, deeply physical metaphor to explain the confusing timeline they are about to endure.
He introduces the infamous little while.
Yes.
The text literally shows the disciples muttering to each other, what does he mean, a little while and you will see me no longer, and again a little while and you will see me? It sounds like a riddle. They are begging for a straightforward calendar date, but Jesus instead compares their impending trauma to a woman in childbirth. He says there is intense, agonizing pain, but that pain is entirely forgotten once the joy of the new baby arrives in the world.
And the scholars point out that this little while operates on a couple of levels. In the most immediate literal sense, the first little while refers to the terribly dark, agonizing hours between the crucifixion on Friday and the resurrection on Sunday morning.
That incredibly brief window.
Right. That is the initial pain and subsequent joy. But Jesus is pulling from a rich tradition of Old Testament prophetic literature here too.
Like Isaiah and Jeremiah, right?
Yes. In those prophetic books, the metaphor of a woman in labor isn't just about human sadness. It represents the principle of pains. It is the chaotic, violent, painful transition period that is absolutely necessary to usher in a completely new divine era, the Messianic age.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and this is such a crucial distinction for you as listeners to grasp. Jesus is drawing a thick black line between meaningless suffering and productive suffering.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because if your car engine seizes up on the highway or you accidentally slam your hand in a door, that is just meaningless pain. It hurts, it's frustrating, but it doesn't produce anything of value. It's just a breakdown.
Right.
But think about a surgeon who has to deliberately re-break a bone that healed wrong so they can set it properly. Or, the intense, overwhelming pain of a mother in labor. That pain, while arguably much more intense than slamming your hand in a door, is entirely different because it has a purpose.
Exactly. It's productive.
It is the necessary mechanism for bringing healing or new life into the world. Jesus is telling them that the horror of the cross and the sorrow they are about to experience isn't a tragic, dead-end breakdown of the plan. It is the plan. It is the labor pains actively giving birth to a new reality of joy that no one will ever be able to take from them.
It's a brilliant reframing of their trauma before it even happens.
Right.
But as beautiful as that is, we have to acknowledge that this new reality born from sorrow doesn't instantly teleport them out of their physical geography.
Right, they still have to live there.
They are still going to wake up the next day in the exact same hostile environment. And this brings us to one of the most recurring and complex themes in John's writings, the concept of the world.
The Greek word here is cosmos, right?
Yes, cosmos. John uses this specific word 78 times in his gospel alone.
Wow, 78 times.
It's central to his theology. And what's fascinating in the study notes is the absolute paradox of how the cosmos is portrayed. On one hand, the world is described as a dark, organized system, deeply hostile to Jesus and his followers. It is ruled by that deposed prince of this world we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It lies in a state of spiritual death, rebellion, and it actively hates the light.
But then you have the flip side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Paradoxically, it is this exact same hostile, rebellious cosmos that God profoundly loves. John 3.16, the most famous verse in the text, says, "For God so loved the cosmos." It is the very object of his saving sacrificial love. It is the very place he sent his son to redeem.
Talk about being caught in the crossfire. God infinitely loves the people in the world, but the systems of the world are violently opposed to God, and the disciples are about to be dropped right into the middle of that paradox, armed only with the advocate.
Yes, which leads directly to the climax of this entire farewell discourse. Jesus gives them a final, brutally honest warning, but he wraps it in the ultimate promise.
He predicts their immediate failure, doesn't he?
He does. He quotes a prophecy from Zechariah, telling them plainly that the shepherd will be struck and the sheep will scatter. He says they will be scattered to their own homes and will leave him completely alone to face the cross.
Which has to hurt. I mean, he knows they are going to abandon him in his darkest hour, yet he doesn't cancel the mission.
No, he doesn't.
Instead, knowing their impending failure, he finishes this heavy, intense speech with a massive note of triumph. He looks at them and says, "In the world you will have afflictions, but take courage. I have overcome the world."
It is genuinely breathtaking when you consider the physical reality of that moment. He is hours away from being arrested, beaten, mocked, and executed by the powers of the cosmos. By every worldly metric, he is about to lose comprehensively.
Right.
Yet, he speaks of his victory as a completed historical fact. I have overcome, past tense. He isn't hoping to win. He's declaring the victory from the starting line. And he tells them this specifically so that in him, they might have peace, even while experiencing the very real afflictions of the world.
So what does this all mean? I think this points to the profound, rugged realism of this text. Jesus completely rejects any version of toxic positivity.
Oh,
You know, the people who say, if you just have enough faith, everything will be easy, you'll always be healthy, your bank account will be full. Jesus doesn't promise a pain-free life. He doesn't offer a magic shield from disappointment or systemic injustice. He actually guarantees the exact opposite.
He guarantees trouble.
Yes. He says afflictions will happen in the cosmos. It's a guarantee. But he offers an anchor of peace that is entirely independent of those external circumstances. You can have peace while the storm is raging because you know the one who has already defeated the storm.
Precisely. The peace he offers isn't the absence of conflict. It's the deeply rooted assurance that no matter how loud the remnants of the cosmos rage, the ultimate verdict has already been handed down.
What an incredible journey this text takes us on. I mean, we moved from the shocking reality that religious sincerity without truth can lead to murder to the logistical genius of the Holy Spirit's arrival overturning worldly verdicts.
Yeah, there's so much there.
And then we saw how a physical metaphor of childbirth can reframe deepest agonizing sorrow into productive pain. And finally, how we are called to exist in a hostile cosmos armed with a peace that defies logic. It's just brilliant.
It really is. And, it leaves you wondering about how we operate today. I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. If ancient texts like this argue that humans are fundamentally unequipped to navigate the cosmos alone, if an advocate, a spirit of truth, had to be specifically sent to guide us, how much of our modern burnout is just us fighting a battle we were never meant to fight solo?
That is a very good question.
How much of our daily exhaustion and anxiety comes from trying to be our own compass in a hostile environment, relying entirely on our own limited understanding when the ultimate guide has already been provided?
Wow. That is a brilliant and challenging thought to chew on. Are we exhausting ourselves trying to secure a victory that was already declared in the past tense? Well, that is all the time we have for today's deep dive. As we wrap up, we want to remind you of that anchor of peace in the midst of whatever storm you might be facing this week. God blesses all the listeners. May you find true courage, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.